On this episode, we discuss the laziest of all of Bangkok's 7 deadly sins, sloth.
So if you want to hear our thoughts on how to get the most out of doing absolutely nothing in Bangkok, you'll dig this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 to record my hit single, Sweat Dripping Down My Back Into My Butt, OMG. But surprisingly, no one's bought the distribution rights yet, so I'm still here.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a 1-year teaching contract 20 years ago, fell in love with all the different ways to say, I like spicy food, but not what you mean by spicy. So I never left.
It's pretty subjective, isn't it?
We want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, David Lazarus, who supports us at the show shoutout level. Stick around after we're done talking about how to enjoy Bangkok at your slothful best to hear why David needs to set up his own Coursera course on how to successfully adapt to living in Thailand. We also want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our ad-free regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos and videos of our interviews, discounts on swag, which you can find on our website, and various other things that aren't available to regular listeners. But best of all, patrons like David also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and random topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about Greg's recent whale watching trip, my outing to an eerily deserted Pra-Atit road, and thoughts on Thailand's COVID struggle. To become a patron, head to bangkokpodcast.com/support.
Well, in this episode, we want to continue our cruise through all of the 7 deadly sins of Bangkok. Now, so far, we've done pride, greed, lust, and wrath. And this show, we're going to be covering possibly my favorite of all the sins, sloth. Now, something cool about this sin is that I've learned, Ed, is that it's the most difficult sin to define, because while all the other sins require you to act or think in a certain way, sloth is the opposite in that it requires you to simply stop doing stuff completely and be lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. So since laziness is a pretty subjective thing, sloth is hard to define. But it's also interesting, Ed, because despite being stuck at home and not being able to go anywhere for the past couple of weeks, I don't know about you, but I feel more wound up than ever. So what I'm really looking forward to is being able to relax in a normal situation again.
For sure.
So I thought this would be fun to discuss, and the way we're going to frame it is when things get back to normal and you and I take a much needed day of rest / sloth. What are some things that we're thinking about doing? How do we spend time in Bangkok and just maximize our slothfulness and get the most relaxation out of it?
You know, I love this topic just because it's so true that there are some days where, this is interesting. It's funny that you brought up this idea that sloth is hard to define, because it's funny because I have a lot of days where I just kind of do nothing and stay at home. And of course that is sloth. But obviously you're not really doing anything. But then there are days where you kind of, it's almost like you want a special kind of sloth. You want to get outside the house. So we're just going to let's just rule out staying at home and doing nothing.
Yeah, say your house is getting fumigated for roaches or something.
But
you still want to relax. What do you do?
Yeah, and it's your day off, or maybe you've had a tough week where you got a bunch of stuff done and you're like, I want to reward myself. Like I'm just gonna chill.
Yeah.
Like what are the options?
I need a me day. I need a Greg day.
That's right. A me day. I like that. All right. Well, I've got 3. I think you said you got 3. You want to go first?
Sure. I'll go first. And this is something that I think is a really cool idea. Now, it is, Bangkok has a ton of really, really nice hotels with really cool facilities. Well, it's funny because, a lot of friends ask me when they come through Bangkok, and I know I'm not the only one. They're like, hey, where's a good hotel to stay at? What's a good place to stay? I'm like, I don't know where to stay. I have a condo. Why would I know what hotel to stay at? But I think as a foreigner living here, you often forget just the amazing facilities and opportunities that we have at our fingertips here that are built to cater to tourists, but that just average Joes who live in Bangkok can take advantage of too. And I always say one of the most relaxing days I've had, and I still remember this was like 15 years ago now, was I went to the Millennium Hilton on the Thonburi side of the river in the sort of mid-afternoon with some friends, and we sat outside on a big comfy sofa in the shade of the hotel, looking at the river, having wine, and then when that was done, we had the buffet dinner at their hotel.
Nice.
And it was so bloody nice. Just several hours just sitting and chatting and drinking nice wine in a beautifully appointed place, looking at the boats going up and down the river. And this happened to be at the Millennium Hilton, but it applies to so many different hotels, especially along the river.
This is such a fantastic point, and I think something happens to expats, or at least it happened to me, is as an expat, there's certain places you tend to go to and you forget about the tourist world. And in a way, you kind of just look at tourist stuff in disdain. You're like, oh, that's for tourists.
Right. Or you walk by a hotel. You're like, oh, there's a hotel. Not for me. I live here.
That's right. But your point is exactly right. Bangkok has insanely cool hotels, and they can be expensive, but they're not always super expensive. And like, as you pointed out, you can always just go there and get a glass of wine or one drink and just enjoy the atmosphere. You know, it could, if it's on the river or wherever, or like a jazz bar on Sukhumvit at one of these 5-star hotels, or a lot of these 5-star hotels have like rooftop bars.
Right.
You know, so I've got a buddy. Actually, I'm glad you raised this point first, because I think it's such a cool thing that I discovered. So I've got one friend who lives in Bangkok, and he's really into the rooftop bar scene and like all the drink deals they do. You know, he's just up on like Tuesday night, it's 2 for 1. So normally you go to one of these rooftop bars, you know, and it might be like 300 baht for like a cocktail.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
But Tuesday night it's 2 for 1. You know, so 150 baht, you're like, fine. And then you just you go up there and you sit down and you're looking at the whole city. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wait a minute, like it took me 15 years to do this. Wait, I should have been doing this every week.
Yeah. So like, I think we can sum this up by saying, you know, take advantage of the infrastructure that's built to pamper tourists. Doesn't have to be just for tourists, yo.
That's right. And my other buddy is a repeat tourist, a re-tourist. Yeah. And he turned me on to the scene as well, because he started educating me about Bangkok hotels, because he has now stayed in so many different hotels, and he knows all the perks and the bonuses and the deals.
He's a hotel hacker.
You know, it's weird because I've been here for 20 years, but then there's a whole world of high-end hotels that I know nothing about. It's like it's a subculture, you know.
Right.
So okay, yeah. So that's number one. That's fantastic. So I'm not going to do better than that. But okay. So I know you and I disagree about this, but my first thing to do on like when it's a me day is to go get like a 2-hour Thai massage and pay like 400 baht. You know, it's a 400 baht for 2 hours. And you know, if you get a traditional Thai massage, parts of it might be painful, but you can always get a oil massage or something not quite as like extreme. But the bottom line is I still, and this is something that I did know, I discovered like my first month in Thailand was the Thai massage. But still, after 20 years, when I you know, let's say I sleep in on a Saturday morning and I wake up, you know, and I make myself some food, and I had a busy week and I don't have to do work in the afternoon, and I'm like, what am I going to do today that just feels good? Like Thai massage. So I would say I probably do it just once a month. But if you like massages, and I know, you know, Greg is not that into them, but the bottom line is, like, for the money, it's 2 hours. 2 hours, 400 baht, 500 baht, something like that, depending on where you go. And you're just lying there, and like your body's being manipulated and turned and twisted and massaged, and it's great. It's great.
We're talking about the whole, like a relaxing day. Like what if you went into a massage place and you're like, I want a 4-hour massage? Would they be?
Dude, you can do that if you want. I mean, for me, like usually when I go, I do an hour, but it's like when I'm really feeling like lazy, like slothful. I'm just like, I just put my money on the table and like, give me 2 hours. And it's just because they're just, you just lie there.
I had a friend who used to take a lot of photography. Was a photographer, and he used to walk around Bangkok doing a lot of photography stuff. And he'd be like, yeah, halfway through the day, like I need a break or something. I stop off for some somtam somewhere, and then I go get a massage for 2 hours. And I tell the woman, like, hey, just like massage my feet for 15 minutes. Like, here's the full money, and just leave, and let me nap for 2 hours.
That's great. Oh yeah, I mean, you can always. I mean, there's endless variations. Of course, you could do like leg massages, foot massages. You can always just, for example, if you have a bad back or your back is sore because you had a tough week at work, you can always just tell them, like, I want 1 hour on my lower back. Like, they'll do that. So it's like, so whatever you want, so that's got to be my number one, like on a me day.
An ed day. My next one, I'm going to take my original number one. I'm going to take that to the next level a little bit. And I want to talk about this really cool company that a couple of buddies of mine from Agoda set up a few years ago, actually. And like you said, it's easy to walk into a hotel and just sort of have a drink or dinner or something like that as a civilian, but the facilities are off limits.
Oh, you mean like the pool and stuff like that?
Yeah, the pool and stuff like that. But there's this really, really cool company, and they're not paying me to say this. I wish they were, but they're not. It's called dailypass.com. And basically, you can buy a membership with certain hotels that will allow you to use their facilities without being a guest of the hotel.
Dude, I never heard of this before.
Yeah, it's really cool. They've been written up in the Bangkok Post and a whole lot of websites and stuff like that. It's a slick website. Dude, like if you're at home and you're like, I got to get out of the house for a day, I really want to just sort of pamper myself. You could be sitting at the swimming pool at a 5-star hotel. They give you discounts on drinks and all this stuff. You can go to the gym.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, it's a really neat idea.
Way back in probably 2002, 2003, when I lived on Sukhumvit, for 1 year, I paid whatever, I can't remember how much it was, but it was like a lot. I mean, not an insane amount, but I became a member of the Marriott's gym. So I got a Marriott gym membership. Yeah. It was nice, man. It was nice. Like just like you pointed out. So it's like I could work out like in a nice gym. I could sit in a steam room or a sauna. I could take like, a 45-minute shower if I wanted. Then I could just sit by the pool. Nice. It's great. It's great. I mean, again, so I think you did it right, because it's like there's kind of the walking off the street, member of the public, buy a glass of wine, enjoy the ambiance, but then there's pay a little money and you get to act like a guest.
Right. You get the best of both worlds, because you get to go home and sleep in your own bed.
Right.
You get to hang out at this like wicked pool for the day.
Yeah, dude.
Especially great if you have kids too, because kids love like, we're going to a special pool today and splash.
Oh, that's great. All right. Yeah. Well, I'm going to stick with relatively cheap things. So I think this is also relatively unheralded among expats.
Unheralded
is Bangkok public parks, especially Lumpini. If you and this is a good one if you don't want to spend a lot of money, but of course, if it's insanely hot and humid like it's been the last couple of weeks, this is not a great idea. But maybe during the cool season, just going to Lumpini or another big public park, getting a mat, maybe getting some cheap food. There's all kinds of vendors all around the public parks with all kinds of food and snacks, stuff to like nosh on, right? Yeah. It's beautiful and peaceful, and if it happens to be like a cooler day, it's serene.
That's the trick though, man. You got to do it like a Thai, because us idiot foreigners, we like go to the park. If you're not there to exercise, we like walk around, feed some ducks or lizards or whatever. And then you're really like, okay, well, what else is there to do? But no. You got to bring a blanket or like buy one of those little, plastic foam mats.
You can rent mats. Yeah, you can rent mats on the edge of the park.
And then get to the vendors outside, buy some chicken and whatever and bring it in.
There's a lot of vendors, yeah.
Whatever you do not smuggle wine in a thermos. Don't do that. Bad idea. It does go really well with fried chicken and sticky rice. But I'm just saying, don't do it. Anyway, but you got to go in and like invest some time in enjoying it. Lay down, have a nap, and the cool season is so nice.
Back in the day, I mean, now I live fairly far away from Sukhumvit, but back when I was on Sukhumvit, I used to love going to Lumpini on the weekends. Me and my wife, we would do exactly what you described. Just rent a mat, get some food, get something to drink, and then you just lie on your back and you're just looking at this like blue sky, like killer clouds. There's like trees, it's green grass. There's like, like the pond or lake thing, whatever you want to talk. And it's just, we are in a tropical climate, and when it's too hot, it's intolerable. But when the temperature comes down, it's the perfect weather. It's like you feel like, okay, this is the perfect environment.
Yeah. It's another thing that we sort of don't take advantage of. We take for granted after being here for too long. Like, I'm going to go jogging in the park, and then I'm going to go back home. But
right, just chilling. Okay, I think, considering how big Bangkok is, there's not enough green. There's not enough, but there is still some substantial green area.
Right, and it's great.
It is great for sure.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got, dude?
My final one. I mean, all of these things they're nothing new. We're not breaking new ground here, but this one's been written about a lot. And fair warning, like I'm going to describe it, but I don't know how things are going to look like post COVID.
Right.
It might be a little bit different to how I'm going to describe it, but I'm sure it'll still be around. But it sounds cliche, but spring for the maximum level of gold class 5-star cinema that you can do.
Dude, I don't think it sounds cliche. I mean, I've only done it once, and it's
Really?
one of those things. Yeah, and it's one of those things where after I do it, I'm like, wait, I should be doing this like once a month.
No doubt. The last really great gold class experience I had was for the for Avengers Endgame, which was
nice.
2 years ago.
Nice.
And this was at Central World, and my wife and I went, and I can't remember how much it was. It was like 1,000 baht for both of us or something like that. But I was so shocked because it included, like, outside of the theater doors, they had this little buffet table set up, like finger foods, like little mini hamburgers and little sandwiches and stuff like that. And it included 1 or 2 drinks, I can't remember, like cocktails. Plus, you could buy your food and bring it into you, and I'd order it outside, and the waiter would bring it into the movie theater. And you got these big, kick-ass, comfy seats to like relax.
Oh man, they're like
recline.
massive. They're like massive lounge chairs. They're like, like just crazy, super comfortable, giant lounge chairs.
And I think the cinema at Central Embassy has full on beds. I've never been.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they definitely exist. I'm not sure exactly where, but
Oh man, it's so comfortable. It's so comfortable. And then again, you're just lying there watching a movie, being stimulated.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's not the cheapest afternoon in the world, but if you're looking to invest in yourself, like, it's worth it. Right?
For sure. No, again, it's just one of these things that I forget. Like, every time I do it, I'm like, damn, I got to do this more. It's so relaxing. It's so relaxing. All right.
Yeah.
So my last thing involves spending some money. And to be honest, I'm not an expert about it. I've just read about it and heard about it from other people. And that is the world of Bangkok spas. And basically, spa treatment to me is this exotic world that I don't really know that much about, but I've seen advertisements, read descriptions, and I have friends who've done it. And essentially, Bangkok is famous for its spas. And essentially, it probably involves, you could get a massage, might be part of it, but it involves all kinds of other things like manicures, pedicures, like just basically
mud baths.
Like it's fairly insane. Like what the way that like, if you want to be treated the same way that an actual king or queen would be treated, it's like, they'll clean your ears out. They'll shave your beard. They'll cut your eyebrows. You know what I mean? It's just like this very specific, like, kind of like where you have like a staff of people who are trying to make you feel good and feel beautiful.
Yeah, totally. And I have zero experience with this, actually. I've never, I don't like massages. I'm not going to take the bigger leap to go to full-on spa service.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It's an entire infrastructure here that serves to pamper. And
yeah, that's right. Pamper. If you want to, that's right. Exactly right. That's right. That's the right word for it. If you want to be pampered to, and okay, whatever. I guess this is not super woke of me. I do think of this kind of thing as kind of like a chick thing. Like when I dream of when I dream of my free afternoon, and I'm like, I'm going to go to a spa. That's not how I'm thinking. And,
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, I am into massages, and but I mean, the spa thing is an option. And whatever I just love when I read these description of spas. It's always fascinating. It's always like avocado skin treatment or something bizarre, like
right.
menthol avocado eyebrow treatment.
Get a body scrub with the dust from the meteor the Japanese spacecraft brought back.
Right. It's so obscure and exotic, and just whether it means anything or not, I don't know, but it sounds cool. It sounds cool.
If going to spas makes you a little bit like unsure about how the whole thing works, how about trying them naked? Because there's some really good Japanese onsen spas in Bangkok as well, like authentic Japanese
Oh,
style.
sure. Right. That's another kind of, well, what this reminds me of is when I've talked before that when I moved to Thailand, I didn't know anything about it. So I bought this book, Culture Shock Thailand, when I was in the LA airport. So I was in LAX and I bought Culture Shock Thailand, and I read it on the plane over here.
Uh-huh.
And I remember in that book they were talking about Thailand having a service culture. And I never heard that expression before, but they were talking about how you shouldn't feel bad about paying someone to kind of cater to you, because they're saying Thailand has a service culture and people are happy to do it, So it's like, it's funny. I mean, again, I'm not really into the spa thing, but what they were kind of saying is you should feel more free to be maybe indulgent, or what, like back home, you would be like, it'd be kind of weird to pay someone to clean my toenails.
Yeah, I guess
You know what
so.
I mean? You're just like, that's okay. I don't want to do that.
I already feel weird enough when my maid comes over and vacuums the place. It's like,
Right, exactly. But whatever. At least in the book Culture Shock Thailand, they were like, it's a service culture. You shouldn't feel weird about it. And I think I kind of buy it. It's like when there's like you said, there's a whole infrastructure of service people, and that's what they want to do. That's how they get paid. That's what they want to do. They want to take care of you. So whatever. It's an option. It's there.
It's a good one. I wonder if I can take my son to an onsen. That'd be a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, the whole onsen thing, that's probably worth a separate show, because I've never been to an onsen in my life, but I've always wanted to go.
I went to a couple in Japan, and they're just phenomenal, an unreal experience. So,
All right, dude. All right. Okay. Another show. That's another show.
walk around naked with totally naked with other strangers takes a bit to get used to.
All right, well, that's worth another show. Now, I don't want to shock any of our listeners, but believe it or not, you could actually combine more than one of the things we've mentioned in the same day.
What?
So it's true. There's no law against it. You could actually hang out in Lumpini Park in beautiful green grass with a beautiful clear sky, get some food, then you could go get a Thai massage, and then you could go to a 5-star hotel and have a glass of wine in front of a beautiful pool with a killer sunset. You could do that.
Yeah, you could top it off with a nice buffet meal and then go see a gold star movie. I think it might be possible to die of too much slothfulness if you do all 6 of these things in one day.
I'm telling you, man, sloth. Sloth is just a weird word, and it's just when I think of sloth, I think of just sitting at home on the couch, bleh, bleh,
exactly.
So our ideas are slightly more motivated. If this is kind of motivated slothfulness, right?
Right.
But
You're lucky. When I think of sloth, I think of Brad Pitt and What's in the Box. That was a particularly traumatizing movie for me. So,
right. No, but I mean, basically, we've given you 6 ways to just cater to yourself in Bangkok, and I think this is honestly, this is one of the best places in the world to be taken care of.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
because there's this service culture idea with massage shops everywhere. It's very easy to get a foot massage, everywhere, and it just feels good. You just sit down and someone massages your feet. It just feels good.
It feels good to have a you day.
That's right. That's right.
Now we should also say all of this comes with a caveat that right now is COVID, so a lot of these things are probably not operating as they normally do. But once all this crap dies down,
that's right.
Yeah, baby,
for sure,
back to normal. Good times. So I'm really looking forward to having a Greg day,
dude. I want to check out the daily pass thing. I knew nothing about that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome. Good guys, good company.
Cool.
All right. They owe me dinner too because they're not paying me to say that. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something that we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we have to learn to live with no matter how we feel about it. And last time, Ed asked me what I thought about weird bathroom signs in Thailand, and this week it's my turn. Now, Ed, this is a pretty big concept. It's a big idea, but it plays a central role in our lives for at least part of the year, every year. Simple idea, simple concept, rainy season.
Rainy season.
What do you think of rainy season?
Well,
it's complicated.
It is a little bit complicated. It's funny that you brought this up because recently it's been very hot, and then there was a massive downpour. And I was so happy. Like I was lying in bed going, thank God for the rain. And, it's like I still think in Fahrenheit, immediately it went from like, I checked my phone. It was, I was lying in bed it was probably 11:30. And I checked my phone. It was 98 degrees outside. 98 degrees for real. This happened like 3 days ago. It was
It's like 37 degrees.
It was 98 degrees at like 11:30 p.m. But then there was a massive cataclysm. There was like a brutal, crazy, like tropical storm. And to be honest, I didn't actually check my phone, but I just felt like it immediately went down to like 75 degrees.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. But what do you think of the whole season? Is it something you look forward to or just deal with or what?
I definitely can't go love, although you're right. In certain circumstances, it's so awesome when it rains and cools things down. I don't think I'm a loathe. I guess I'm a live with. The thing about the rainy season is it tends not to rain for a really long time. So, this is something I learned.
I mean, like a couple hours in the afternoon.
Yeah, or even a lot of downpours seem to last 20 minutes, I think that's a tropical thing. In Ohio, when it rains for like 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. In Vancouver, it rains for 6 months during the winter.
Right, exactly. But it's just the bottom line is the flooding. Like if the rainy season didn't cause flooding and therefore cause massive traffic jams more than usual, it wouldn't be so bad. So maybe the rainy season outside of Bangkok. It might even be something you like.
That's interesting. You might have a geographical categorization to it.
In Bangkok, the rainy season just kind of sucks because it shuts this. The downpour happens. There's instant floods for some reason that like the Bangkok Metropolitan Authority can't figure out after hundreds of years.
Yeah, I always joke about that. Like, man, it rained again. Right. This is like the 300th year in a row.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's flooding again. They can't seem to figure it out. But I wouldn't say I'm quite a loathe.
In their defense, Bangkok sits like 9 centimeters above sea level. So.
That's right. We're going to be underwater in the next 50 years. I don't think it's an easy problem, but you think they would. I was talking to my students about this, and I was talking about like the Dutch, like 500 years ago, coming up with like a massive like engineering solution.
Right.
And I'm just like, Bangkok's got to do something.
Yeah.
It's like if it rains hard for 10 minutes, a third of the city's underwater.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You got to solve that.
I am just edging over the line to love on the rainy season.
For real?
Yeah. Like and this might be a purely selfish, very subjective categorization, but I've never really been affected. I've always been lucky enough to live close to the BTS, and there are times when it screws with my schedule or I get wet or something like that, and it is annoying. But taken as a whole, I really like it. It reminds me that I'm living in a really different world than the one I grew up in. It reminds me that I'm having a little bit of an adventure.
True that. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I like being able to deal with it and to work around it and through it. I like it gives me a sense of satisfaction to say like, yeah, it's a rainy season, but normally I do this, but now I've got to do this because of this reason or something like that. So
interesting.
Overall, I really like it. I think it's a cool part of the year.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually a live with leaning towards loathe only because of the inconvenience of it. Although, like I said, occasionally I like the fact that it rained. And you're right. It's hard to explain because it obviously did rain back home, but there's something about the tropical storms here where you do feel like this is not the same. This is something different.
Totally. Yeah.
It's just more, it happens faster. I feel like when I grew up, it would like drizzle for a while and then it would just rain and then there'd be a downpour. It's not like the skies would just crack open and like a bucket like, falls on you.
Yeah.
But here it's just like the sky's open and it's just downpour.
Yeah.
And then 20 minutes later it stops.
It's like you're in a steam bath. Like, oh, yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so I'm going to go live with leaning towards loathe.
All right, I'm love.
All right, so as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to David for lending us his support at the show shadow level. And Greg, what did you find out about David?
Well, it turns out I think we should all try to be a little bit more like David because he and I had several long conversations on email. And he has adjusted much better than I did to life in Thailand. And he has just dived right in with both feet. So he's got a really interesting story. He grew up in New York State and he came to Thailand with a girlfriend on a trip way back in the day. They eventually broke up and everything, but he said he was getting close to retirement and he never really traveled anywhere. And he thought, where should I retire to? And he said he checked out Seattle and Florida. And then it hit him one day. He's like, I don't have to stay in the U.S. And he thought of where he's been. Nowhere except Thailand.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's totally upfront with this. He's like, long story short, I hit up Thai Love Links, which is like an online dating site that I don't think is around anymore. He said he chatted with a woman online and after 9 months took a trip to Thailand to meet her. And on the last day of his trip, he whipped out the ring. Boom. Engaged.
Damn.
Yeah.
Close the deal.
Yeah. He said, why not? She's honest, organized, warm, affectionate, and a great cook. Bam. So
nice.
Yeah. So check this out. Now he's living like the prototypical Thai country life. He's married. He lives in Saraburi with his wife's whole family, 11 people living in 2 houses that are right next door to each other. And he says an average day you might see him doing some bike riding, do the shopping, eat sticky rice on the floor, work on keeping the houses up to spec, make a batch of his own hot sauce. Hey, we should get some of that. David, can you send us some hot sauce?
Yeah, we want some.
Yeah, totally. He'll play some guitar. He'll practice some Thai. He'll trade some crypto online. And at the end of the day, he puts his feet up and enjoys a nice Heineken Zero with ice and sweetened lime juice with his dog Saku sitting on his lap.
Damn, that's a nice picture there.
Yeah, it's a nice life. And he fell right into that. You know, the whole thing, like when you marry a woman, Thai woman, you marry her family. And he's like, yeah, come on board. We're all living in this little commune. Right. So he has this great little support network and he married right into their family and he seems to be making a really good go of it. So good on him.
Cool.
I think of my first couple of months in Bangkok and it was just like, where am I? What am I doing? And, I was totally lost and alone and freaked out by everything. But so I think David should offer his courses like David's 6 weeks to becoming comfortable in Thailand or something.
How to kick ass in Thailand.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. How to kick ass in Thailand. So David, well done, sir. You've got a nice life up there. And maybe if we're up in that area one time, we'll stop by and have a beer. You stick with the Heineken Zero. I'm going to go with the regular beer. But, to each their own.
For sure. Thank you, David.
Thanks, man.
All right, a final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Right. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can send us a voicemail online that we'll probably feature on the show, or even reach out to me directly on Twitter or Instagram, where I am BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, everyone. Get the vaccine if you can. Wear a mask. Stay safe. We'll see you next week.
For sure. That's the new.
But,
I don't know. That's like the new. I don't know. Like the new. Shit, fuck,
what do cool people do? That shows a lot about us.
It's the new. It's
What do you
the
brag
new,
about? It's the
Goddamn,
new,
what am I thinking of? It's like the
new fake ID. Like, look what I got. Check it out.
I'll just cut that out. I don't know how to file that up.
Well,
But it's like
we went
it's like
down with
the
that.
new. It's like the new validation or something like the new. I don't know. Just cut that out. I don't know. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do know what you mean.